virtual art room. Today we're going to be talking about the art word texture. Texture is how something feels. It might be smooth or bumpy, scratchy, soft, or ridged. And texture is also visible. Check out the sole of my shoe. You can see the texture on the surface of the shoe, forming a little heart pattern. You can also see it in my earring. See all those dots? That's texture. We're going to learn about an artist named Max Ernst, who used texture in a series of works. And then we're going to make artwork of our own using texture. I know you're going to have a lot of fun. Let's get started.
Max Ernst was born in Germany in 1891. He served as a soldier in World War I and came back from the war changed forever, deeply saddened by the things that he had seen. To Max Ernst, the world as he knew it didn't make sense anymore. He spent the rest of his life making art that made fun of modern culture. He also tried to make art that expressed his deepest emotions and feelings. Often, those feelings and emotions didn't make sense, and so some of his artwork almost looks like a dream. One of the techniques that Max Ernst used to try to explore his feelings and develop his creativity is called frottage. It means to rub in French. A piece of paper is placed over a textured surface and then rubbed with crayon or chalk or another coloring utensil. Max Ernst would combine these rubbings and then add to them to create weird and beautiful drawings. Inspired by the artwork of Max Ernst, we're going to make our own artwork using frottage, or rubbing. For this project, you will need a couple pieces of plain white paper, a peeled black crayon, and if you want to color your work at the end, which looks really cool, you'll also need watercolor paint, paintbrushes, a cup of water, and a rag. Now you need to find some objects with texture to do your rubbings. Look around your house and outside to see if you can find objects that have a textured surface. Here are some examples of things that I've used: a strainer, a leaf, the clean bottom of a shoe, the inside of a piece of cardboard, a yoga mat, the decorative part on my fireplace, the bottom of a chair, the decoration on a teapot. I'll bet you can find a ton of different things that have interesting textures. Rubbing, place your paper on top of the object. You may want to tape it down so that it does not move while you're rubbing. With your chalk or crayon, using the long, flat edge, gently rub over the surface of your object. Go in one direction instead of back and forth in all different directions. It will make for a better rubbing. Can you see the texture of my leaf? A surface like a strainer may be more difficult. Tape your paper so that it doesn't move. And rub gently in one direction. With rubbings from as many different objects as you can find. Keep track of which objects make which texture. And then start brainstorming different things that you could make by combining various rubbings. I've done quite a bit of experimenting, and I've discovered some things that make super cool textures. There were some in particular that really inspired me. For example, I have this little watch mechanism that has a really interesting pointed area that reminds me of a beak, and I have quite a few round objects, and I've got this leaf that sort of looks feathery, and all of these things remind me of a bird. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put together my different objects with their textures on this piece of paper to try to envision what I want the finished project to look like. I have this piece of aluminum foil that I crumpled and flattened that makes a really interesting texture that I think will be cool for the body. Here was this lovely piece that I thought would make a cool wing. I folded some aluminum foil instead of crumpling it, and that makes really interesting lines. I have the hook of an earring that I thought would make a cool leg, and this little heart-shaped medallion I think is perfect for feet. And then I've got this for the beak. I think this thing it's really bumpy and it's very difficult to do, but if I can get it to work, I think that'll make an amazing head. I'll try to do this for the eye as well. This project looks so cool like it is that I want to take a picture of it before I go any farther. I'd encourage you to take a picture of your own project too before you start rubbing. So now that I have my bird fully envisioned, what I need to do is pull the parts away and do one piece at a time. I'll put another piece of paper on top of this one, and maybe I'm just going to outline where things go. Not like a super specific outline, but just to give me an idea. So when I remove a piece, I know, ooh, I can put it right back there and that'll go where I want it to go. Except one bit, and I'm just going to do one bit at a time. I'll try to place my paper right on top of the other paper. Make sure nothing moved as I put my paper down. And I'll use the side of my crayon to make the rubbing. I can use kind of this angled point here or just the flat of the crayon. It's hard not to make marks outside of my rubbing area. I just need to go slowly and be careful and accept any mistakes that happen, because that's life. Okay, so there's my body. Now I can remove this piece and put it off to the side, and I'll do my tail next. That goes right here. Make sure my corners of my paper are still matched up. And this. All right, tail is done. Now for my wing, I'll try to place it more or less how I had it. Holding it down with my non-dominant hand to make sure that it doesn't shift while I'm drawing. I'm also trying to use my crayon slowly, pressing firmly, but not going crazy back and forth. So far, so good. Remove my feather leaf, and I'm going to try this earring hook. This is going to be a little tricky because it's so small it has a tendency to shift. Holding it down with my hand that's not drawing, and I'm kind of using more of the tip of the crayon to get this one. And actually that worked out just fine. I don't know what I was worried about. Onto this heart. Let's see, flip it around. Okay, this one I'm also a little nervous about. Let's see how this goes. Kind of drawing with the side of the tip here, because that seems to be a good way to get smaller, more detailed areas on an object. Again, so far so good. And now I think I'm ready for this super complicated head. All right, wish me luck, friends. Oh, I'm nervous. Okay, just go a little bit at a time, Miss Pomeranke, a little bit at a time. This decoration. I'm gonna see if I can capture that a little bit on his head, because it'll make him look like he's got some fancy feathers. All right, so far so good. Move that out of the way, and now this nut. I'm going to, I kind of want it to be a little bit centered on that white spot, so I'm going to feel through the paper and try to maneuver it into position. Probably won't end up being perfect, but you know, close enough. All right, let's give it a go. Now for this beak, another pretty tricky bit. And just like with the nut, I'm going to feel it and make sure that it's in place, just like I want it. And it does feel pretty good. I'm gonna use more of the tip of my crayon. See if I can get that more detailed space. I wish I had a piece I could use for the bottom of the beak, but maybe if I use the edge, I'm gonna try it. Sometimes you just have to take a risk. Yeah, risk paid off. Looks really cool. Now looking at how this rubbing turned out, I think it would be neat to have some more feathers up here. So I'm going to look through my collection and see what might make an interesting feather. It's a fancy looking bird. I spent a few more minutes using other objects to create textures for a tree-like shape around my bird. Now I have a choice. I can either leave it as it is in black and white, or I could use my watercolor paint to add some color. I happened to make two, so I'm going to leave one black and white, and I'm going to paint the other one. You'll notice as you paint with your watercolors that the crayon that you used for the rubbing resists the watercolor, so your lines will still be nice and dark.
I hope you had fun making art with me today, friends. I can't wait to see your work. Till next week!